Adventure effects are a relatively new addition to Pokémon GO, with the first ones being introduced during the Los Angeles Sinnoh Tour in February of 2024. And with that event, we got Origin Palkia and Origin Dialga, and they got their exclusive moves Spatial Rend and Roar of Time. But instead of them just being super powerful moves, they also came with added effects that we've never seen before in all of Pokémon GO. Roar of Time allowed you to extend the duration of most of your in-game items, those items specifically being star pieces, lucky eggs, incenses, and the daily adventure incense, which quickly became a popular effect with most trainers because the daily adventure incense only lasts for 15 minutes normally, unless there's a special event that usually kicks it to like 30. But with Roar of Time, you could make the daily adventure incense last for up to 24 hours if you had the Stardust and the candies to do it, which greatly increased the chance of you finding a Galarian bird and potentially catching it. And when you activated Spatial Rend, you could see in-game spawns 2 times further than you normally could, which is a fantastic addition for community days, spotlight hours, or live events that you may go to. But again, it cost a decent amount of Stardust and candies to activate for a long time. And after those 2 additions to the game, we didn't have a new adventure effect for quite some time until July of 2024, right after the in-person Go Fests. And that's when we got 2 brand new adventure effects for both Dawnwing and Duskmane Necrozma, and both of their effects basically act like an incense, bringing in specific Pokemon, and you can evolve certain Pokemon at any time of day depending on which one you chose. And for the most part, people thought it was an okay effect, but not nearly as cool as both of the Origins effects. But that got me thinking, what brand new adventure effects could we get in Pokemon GO that would be a great addition to the game? And after digging around a bit, I think I found a few of them that would be great additions to Pokemon GO. So with that being said, let's dive into them. Now, the first adventure effect we're gonna dive into is not one that I've come up with on my own. I heard about this from a listener of a podcast that sent this in, and I just loved the idea so much that I wanted to share it with you guys. But it revolves around the confined form of Hoopa here. Confined Hoopa does have an exclusive move called Hyperspace Hole, and when activated in the main series games, it's basically a move that never misses. If you don't know the lore of Hoopa, basically these little rings that it has are like teleporters or warp tunnels. It throws the ring, it grows, and can make anything go through them like legendary Pokemon. So the idea that the listener came up with is, what if we use this Hoopa with Hyperspace Hole to do remote trading, which sounds like a really cool idea. Basically, you'd have to use a couple candies and a decent amount of Stardust, I'd imagine, and you could do one special trade with anybody around the world that was on your friends list. So let's say I have an Australian lucky friend. I'm not gonna go to Australia anytime soon, and they're not gonna come to me anytime soon. Well, we could do the trade by spending a decent amount of Stardust and some candies, and then we can do that one trade with each other. So the Hoopa would throw its ring in the air, you throw the ball, and it would just like go through the ring and poof out the other side for them. I think that would be a fantastic addition. I know that Niantic doesn't really want to do a lot of remote things since they've cut down on remote raids and stuff like that, but I feel like this would be a great addition, especially for people that you're not going to see for years and possibly ever see again. And if they really wanted to, they could put a cooldown on it. Maybe you could only do this effect once a day, or maybe once every 3 days, kind of like a Meltan box where you can activate it a little bit over time. I think it would be a great addition to the game, and it would definitely help out the online communities for sure, because again, not everybody's going to have the money to meet up at places, and during the time that we did all these remote raids, we still have all these friends from around the world, and I'm sure a few of you have lucky friends that you might not see for quite some time, so with this effect, it would be great. But again, I must say, I did not come up with this idea. I heard it on a podcast, but I really liked the idea. And when it comes down to the Unbound form, it does have an exclusive move called Hyperspace Fury, I believe, but I don't know exactly what we would do with that. Maybe it would just do the same thing, so that way you don't have to have a confined one if you really want to have the Unbound one. Maybe that's like a thing. But if you can come up with any idea for Hyperspace Fury, let me know in the comments down below, because maybe we could do something kind of fun with it. The second adventure effect I have for you guys is a move that I've been thinking about for quite some time, and I think it would be a fantastic addition to Pokemon GO. And the best part about this move is that it's not locked to a legendary or a mythical or anything like that. A lot of Pokemon can learn this move. And that move specifically is called Sweet Scent. It is a normal type move, and in the main series games, when it's activated in battle, it would reduce the evasiveness of your opponent's Pokemon, but it didn't do any damage at all. But this was one of the few moves that you could activate outside of battle, and when you activated it outside of battle, it would put a big pink smoke around you, and it would bring in a random Pokemon that you could encounter and possibly catch. And for those of you who've been playing Pokemon GO for a little while, that might just sound like the incenses. When you pop an incense, it puts a little pink ring of smoke around you, and it brings in random Pokemon. Now, obviously, this would have to have a bit of a cost to it, so it didn't just completely rule out incenses, period. But it would be very interesting to have this ability, especially because in the main series games, this was a way to bring in roaming legendary Pokemon. In the Generation 2 and 3 main series games, Sweet Scent was a very vital tool to pick out specific legendary Pokemon that were roaming around, those being the legendary beasts and Latios Latios and Latias. So I'm thinking, how about we add the same thing to this Sweet Scent ability? It's a very, very rare chance, much like a Galarian bird, but they could bring in one of the roaming beasts like Entei, Suicune, and Raikou, or Latios and Latias, but they do have a high flee rate, so they can run away from you. But obviously, if you find a shiny of one of them, it's a guaranteed catch as long as you throw enough balls to catch the thing. And I think the balance to this being used as opposed to a normal incense is that this does cost candy and Stardust, and over time, you're going to wipe out all the candy for specific Pokemon, and you will grind through your Stardust while using it. So I think there is a good cost balance to it, but I can understand why Niantic would be a little hesitant with this one because they don't want to lose out from sales from incenses, because that's one way they get money for the game. So there would definitely have to be some sort of balance to the whole thing. Maybe it only brings in specific Pokemon with the very, very rare chance of getting a legendary, but that's just my idea. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, though. And as for finding these Pokemon with Sweet Scent, I would imagine they would have to do an event or something like that. It can't be something that's just always available. That way it makes the Pokemon a little bit more exciting to run into when you finally get them. Or maybe it'll be something that you could only evolve into, like specific Community Day moves and stuff like that. But it definitely feels like something that would have to be time gated for a little bit just to make them that little bit more rare for everybody. And when it comes down to damage and PvP and raids and stuff like that, I would imagine this would be a very low damage move, kind of like Acid Spray, where you use the move and it does a little bit of damage, but the main focus of it is it reduces attack or defense. And I think since it's Sweet Scent, it probably should lower the attack, because evasiveness really isn't a thing in Pokemon Go. But again, let me know what you think in those comments down below. The third adventure effect I have for you guys is not a move. It's actually an ability, which we do not have in Pokemon Go as of right now, so I don't know how they would implement this, but it's an ability that's super useful in the main series games, and I think it would be fantastic for Pokemon Go. And that ability is called Flame Body. It's mostly only found on Fire-type Pokemon, and what this ability does is it makes your eggs hatch a lot faster. So obviously, we could implement this into Pokemon Go. Imagine you have a Fire-type that has this Flame Body effect, and it reduces the amount you have to walk with your eggs. Now, how much it reduces by, I guess that depends on the cost of the candy and Stardust that you use to activate the ability, because this isn't going to be something that's just happening at all times. I think this is something that we have to treat like an adventure effect. You know, you activate it with Stardust and a certain amount of candy for a certain period of time, but every single egg in your inventory that you have incubating at that time does have reduced walking distance. And depending on the event that's happening at the time, there might already be reduced walking distance, so you could add that on top, and super incubators on top of that. I think that would be great, especially for things like 12-kilometer eggs, or when they have Larvesta events and stuff like that, or basically anything that they add to 10-kilometer eggs. You know, it takes a little while to walk them as it is, so imagine that you're able to reduce that even more. So if you really want to go for it, you could. You just have to use your resources in order to do it. But adding this does open up the can of worms for abilities in general in Pokemon Go, though I would like to see abilities in Pokemon Go. I think it would help spice things up a little bit. But again, like I keep saying, let me know in those comments down below what you think about this. And that's all the adventure effects that I could come up with right now, but I'm sure you guys have tons of ideas, so please let me know all of them in the comments down below. But before you do that, don't forget to smash that subscribe button for me, show me some love, and if you're enjoying the content and you want to see even more of it, I highly suggest this video right over here. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.